Welcome to FRC Outside the Bot, where in each episode, you'll hear FIRST Robotics competition team management content broken into short, easy-to-digest segments. I'm Carolyn Arthurs, FIRST Regional Director for Louisiana and Mississippi. In this second episode, we're going to cover the NASA Rookie Grant application. This video was recorded prior to the release of the application, and it's been edited to include only the segments that are most beneficial for the purpose of its completion. Follow along on your application to get the most beneficial experience. Go to robotics.nasa.gov to begin, and make sure you're on the page that says Apply to follow along with this recording. Listening to the audio only is helpful, but watching the video to take the questions one at a time is your best option. Find the video on YouTube by searching NASA Rookie Grant Cram, and follow the podcast to get updates and more team management advice. Let's begin. So I'm going to go ahead and hit apply. This paragraph about the background information, one thing that it says, NASA must be identified as a team sponsor and appear in sponsor team's official name on record with FIRST. That can sound a little confusing if you're not familiar with the structure of the names. You can name your team whatever you want, but in the FIRST system in your dashboard, at some point, you're going to put in all of your sponsors. At the competition, when they read out your team name for the first time every day of the event, they're going to read the whole thing. They're going to read Team 118 Robonauts, and then they're going to say NASA and every other sponsor that the Robonauts have. After that, they're going to go to the short version just for time's sake. But in that beginning, and then in the championship rounds at the end, they're going to call out that full long name with the sponsors. That full long name is what they're talking about here. So you're going to have NASA in that part of your name. It doesn't mean that you have to name your team the NASA bots.
Can you go over to Blue Alliance and just look up 364, some other?
Sure.
And I think it shows up.
364.
Or something like that.
We happen to have 364's team mentor on this call right now, so good choice.
Upper right.
Got it. This is a good resource, Blue Alliance, for looking up other teams.
Yeah, see where it says AKA NASA STEM Space Center, Mississippi Power. The Blue Alliance will give you some insight into what people name their teams.
Yeah, that's a good point. So they are Team Fusion 364 as their short name, and then the long name has everything else. Okay, so now we've seen that the students having to complete an online survey at the beginning and the end of the season. I think that this is a good idea for every team. It doesn't matter whether you get the NASA grant or not. We can talk about what those questions need to be. It's not going to be necessary for completing the grant, but it is something that if you do get the grant, you're going to need to do as a requirement. But like I said, even if you don't get the grant for some reason, I would still do it, because the data that you can get from that can be used for other purposes, for fundraising and all sorts of other things, proving to your principal that this was the right move. If you have that data to support it, and that helps you continue the process for future years. Okay, so right here, it says Chairman's Award. That's actually a little bit outdated. We don't call it the Chairman's Award anymore. We call it the Impact Award. And the Impact Award is the highest award that you can get with FIRST. It has nothing to do with the matches. It has to do with how you run your team as a business and your community outreach and all sorts of other things. You do have to submit. Lucian, do we still have to submit for the Impact Award, or do we only submit the annual report like the Impact Award?
You must submit the award.
You won't be able to win the award, but you are going to submit the award. It's a great way to get practice for the future, because in the future you will be able to submit to win this award. A letter of support from your educational institution, sponsor, or your community organization that's That is not something that you need for the application, but it is something that you will have to provide. The robot has to be completed and transported to the competition in order to get this money. I actually have had that happen in the past where not this grant, but another grant, a team got $10,000 to build their robot, and then they did not finish that robot, and they were asked to give the money back. So that's not a joke here. We definitely want you to complete the process. Now, once you accept the money, if it turns out that you're having major problems and you feel like you're not going to be able to compete, you need to talk to us immediately. Anytime that a team has come to us and said, hey, we're having trouble with something, the entire community comes together and everybody helps. So don't ever feel like you're on your own. Always contact me. You can go into the online community of FIRST. There's teams all over the world that will help you at any moment. Sponsorships can't be transferred. So here we go with our yeses and nos. Should your team be awarded this grant, the team understands and agrees to the associated requirements. I hope that you will say yes on that. Does the team plan on attending the FRC championship? This is might seem a little bold, but you actually have the option to say if qualified. And you also plan to wait list. I'm not actually sure what that means.
So that means that you can always apply to be on the wait list for the championships. And then after they take all of the qualified teams, then they go down the wait list and start adding teams. It doesn't happen as much anymore.
Okay. So my goal would have you to say if qualified, and then it does have an additional cost, but we would just do a push to try to get that funding if you don't have it already by the time of the championship.
And it is a fair statement to say, me as a NASA representative, to say that if you put if qualified and then you don't show up at championship, we're not going to hunt you down and ask you why you answered this question one way or the other.
Okay, that's good to know. I will say that as you're going through this process, please keep hitting save. How many students do you anticipate participating in this program? Now, some of you are just recruited this week. I know that you don't know how to answer that question. Some of you might have a ballpark. I think that the way to go about this is if you already have started to gauge interest, then go ahead and put what number you really feel is the number. If you don't have, you're not to that point yet, if we just recruited you this week, I would say the veterans on the call can jump in here too, but I would say you probably want to be at about 15 to 20 students, maybe. I think that the involvement it's safe to say you'd probably get that many at least. That one's up to you.
And again, do not stress too much over these questions. That's why we put anticipate there. So estimate, but don't try to go fill out a roster and spend too much time on any of these questions that are kind of like, hey, what do you anticipate?
Yeah, I think that a lot of these types of questions, it's just making sure that you're thinking about it, not just like going to be surprised when the time comes. Okay, how many adult mentors? So you're required to have 2 lead coaches on any FIRST team. I've heard a lot of people say that the minimum that they've had is 4. I've had teams that have been successful with 2, but it's a real challenge. And so I would say you really want to have more mentors than that. And understanding the difference between coaches and mentors. A coach is the person like the football coach. They're the person that's at the school or at the facility that's like the coach in charge. And then the mentors are the people that it could also be a coach, but it's the person that has some level of expertise in some topic, subject matter expert that's going to mentor the students in a direction to be successful on the team. So that's just my own definition. Other people might have other definitions. Those terms are often used interchangeably. So just put whatever you feel you're going to shoot for. Has to be a minimum of 2. Okay, those mentors, how many will be handling administrative tasks? I know you're not going to know that yet. Let's just put, 1 or 2. Is this a number entrance? It's a number. I think on my mock application, I put 1. Describe the organization of your team and how the roles and responsibilities are shared between students, mentors, faculty, and community partners. This question is hard if you've never experienced a first team. So what I did was I went through what Lucian Junkin suggested, and I went into ChatGPT.
Yeah, since my name was invoked. So I encourage you to use AI to explore your answer, not to cut and paste. We will know if it's just a cut and paste, but certainly if you ask the question, it will tell you some things.
Okay, so ChatGPT says understand FRC is probably a good idea. But I think if we go back to the question, describe the organization of your team and how the roles and responsibilities are shared between your students, mentors, faculty, and community partners, understanding you're not all school teams. I think that you're looking at, from this result, you're looking at identifying what roles they're going to play. Leadership roles here, and then sub-teams.
Safety and documentation, during the bill season, emphasize safety. So this is really good information.
Yeah, so I use ChatGPT and I just came up with my own version. I'm opening myself up for judgment here. So I did officers, project management. These are like little departments, right? So officers, project management. Some people do rules as a separate task force. Some people build it into project management. The robot build team, this is another one. Some people have a robot build team and then they also have an electrical, a programming, a mechanical. I like to keep things kind of streamlined. So I just put robot build as the overall umbrella and then sub teams of that. The business team, a lot of teams have business teams. So that would be identifying sponsors, money, business management type of stuff, those types of duties. The logistics portion of it is things like arranging the travel to your competition. What are your team meals going to look like? What are the hotel rooms? How do you get the robot there? How do you get the robot back? How do you get the tools there? What is your pit setup going to look like? And what are you going to need? In addition to that, I would say that procurement of inventory and the inventory of your parts and what you have and what you need could also fall into logistics. The event, exhibition, and competition preparation, this is something that we go through a lot, especially in October and November when everybody is having their STEM events. We need to know, okay, who's bringing a table? Who's going to bring a tablecloth? Are they going to have electricity at this place? Do we need to bring a power cord? Things like that. So that is part of making sure that you're managing the logistics. Marketing, it's just what it sounds like. Social media, public relations, community outreach, branding, press, media. It can include kids that are never going to touch the robot. They could actually have an interest in graphic design. They could have an interest in photography, videography, in broadcast journalism. Lots of kids can be involved in this. This is where you can have your STEM kids or you could have your arts kids. I like the idea of having a historian. I've never seen it on any of these lists, but I'm going to throw it out there that I think you need to have a historian on every team that's going to be taking pictures, that's going to be taking notes, that's going to say what you did on every single meeting. What did you cover? What did you get to? What did you not get to? Maybe even say what your goals were and then link it back to whether or not you made those goals in that amount of time. Because you can take that and you can plan for your next season using that information. The more important thing, I think, even more important than that, is chronicling the journey so that you can share it. Where do these kids start? I would do interviews on tape, on video, right when you get those kids in the room and ask them what their expectations are. Ask them what made them join. Ask them if they've ever had any experience with a robot or with electrical or with whatever before. Find out where they are when they start and then do it again after the season's over and see what the difference is. Those kinds of testimonies are gold. And then the other thing is making sure that you're chronicling things if they've improved in their schoolwork, if they've improved in their attendance. This historian role, I'm kind of going on, but I just think it's really important. Statistics can also go along with the historian role. This is the actual collection of the data. What are the goals and how far are they on track? But it's also going to allow you to have data to present later to sponsors, to your administrators, your community leaders, your legislators, and to also turn in for the NASA grant when they ask you at the end to report what happened. And then awards. So awards is often overlooked when it comes to rookies. There are awards that rookies, first of all, need to do if you're applying for this NASA grant, including that impact award. We do have awards that are specifically designed for rookies. If you know that in advance, you might be able to start planning what you're going to do for that award ahead of time, because guess what? It has nothing to do with the matches. One of them has nothing to do with the matches, has nothing to do with your robot design. It has to do with what did you have to do to get here? So this is my version. You can also look at other versions online. So let's go to the next question. Okay, this is the financial questions. So it's asking for the most significant sources. Please use the tables below to outline the most significant sources of income. Okay, so this is actually looks like it's mixed up because it says sources of income and expenses, but really this is about expense. But you'll do the income next. So for this, I'm going to do this live. So you have your registration. The first guideline for additional equipment and supplies, you do 4,000. Do you veterans agree with that?
Yeah, I put 5 in there, but 4 is fine.
Sure. Team branding, or you could do it as a brand, or you could do it as like t-shirts. You know, you can usually get a deal on this. I know you don't know how many students you have yet, but you know, maybe put in 1,000, $1,200, something like that.
If you think you're going to be able to do 20 students, you'll need some printed material, and sometimes that can go up in cost. You know, it's what is your team identity going to be?
You just have to be able to explain it. You know, if number is high, then you have to be able to say why.
So
Okay.
if I'm filling out this form, I'm letting the people who look at this form understand what my essentials are and what my non-essentials are, whether it be with an open parentheses and a closed parentheses. Like registration is an essential.
Gotcha.
Marketing collateral is a nice to have.
Yeah.
When you go to make buttons for competition, you effectively say, do we have enough money in the bank to buy buttons? So, make it clear to the reviewer that you're not going into this with spending, $10,000 on branding, and that,
Yeah.
and that the reviewer says, well, if they think they got $10,000 for branding, then why do they need our $5,000?
Do we probably need to only focus on the things that I think are the essentials, which would be registration, bus travel, lodging, robot prototyping, some field elements, and that's it?
I gotta stay a little neutral here. I would say that from a reviewer standpoint, it's nice to know that the team understands all of the expenses. So having the other expenses is good.
Okay.
So
Okay, so transportation and lodging. Gosh, this is a hard one because it's really going to depend on how far away you are from your competition and how many students you have. If you have 10 kids and you have parents that can bring those 10 kids, then go for it. If you are in a situation where you're attached to a school that's going to force you to take the bus together and you have to pay for that bus, put that in there. If you have to go a greater distance and you really need to charter something, then that's something that you got to do. Team meals, maybe event expenses, and that would be kit setup.
So I put $9,000 for transportation and lodging because you got 2 nights, about roughly $150 a night. If you do have 20 kids, I put 30 because you're gonna have probably a few extra rooms or essentials or gas or anything else. This is estimation anyway, so I'll take
Yeah,
the number
yeah,
because this is transportation and lodging. So
Yeah, it's just given them, meaning the reviewers, the understanding that you understand that this would be an expense. Whether you want to separate out the like team meals or you want to include it in a general expense line, standard is that they do not allow outside food and drink into these venues. Anything else that y'all think we should include in this?
I would encourage everyone to just go to the source. FIRST has a budget. It's not a very detailed budget, but there's an example budget for FIRST robotics competition, and that's what I used with the people on the coast. It will get you into the ballpark, and then we can talk specifics as we move forward on this, getting this NASA in on the deadline.
Now, the expected income. I do have a question for Lucian. Is the NASA money supposed to go in this?
you're more than welcome to put it in there.
Okay. If you are in the Mississippi Power territory in your state, they also give money to every team in their region. So let's just pretend Mississippi Power, they give 5,000 for the first year, 4,000 for the second year, 3,000 each additional year. And that's in perpetuity. If you do not have a Mississippi Power team, then you could put something like, I plan on doing grant writing and I want to earn, 5,000 from that or 10,000 from that. You could just say, like, it's not just going to be NASA. You do have a sustainable model of something that you're going to do.
Is it important on this grant for your expected income to equal your budget number?
It doesn't have to be specific right now. It's just that there's going to be show that you know that there's more fundraising to do.
Right.
Okay, so let's go to question 3. Before I move on, does anybody have any questions?
Yes, on the budget and the expected income, we don't really know yet, but is it okay if it's say $100 over our expected budget already? Is that fine? I mean, it could be more, could be less. I mean, we really don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the goal is that you want to show that you have a plan for the expenses that you expect. So if right now you have some sources that you know are coming in, like the new team grant, for example, that's something that some teams have already been awarded. So
Okay.
if you know that you're getting that, then go ahead and put it in. Now, if you have a plan for getting more money and it's just basically, oh, we're going to have a fundraising campaign, then future fundraising, this amount. Please identify the corporate or community partners, mentors who will assist and instruct the students in fabrication, mechanical and electrical concepts, computer programming and control, and computer-aided design and animation. How will they enable your students to be successful? That is a lot to know right now. So some of this might be resources that you already have at your school. You might have a local technical college that has these type of resources. This is how I did it. I said, we plan to connect with business and industry in our area to recruit expert mentors and reach out to other teams for support in our rookie year. We also have area teachers that we will ask for assistance in their fields of expertise. And then I listed the target businesses. So the target businesses, just, look at a map of who in your area you might be able to go to ask for help. It could be somebody that you already are connected with, like a teacher or some sort of facilitator at your organization, some sort of local fabrication department. I said that because I think that a lot of schools and technical schools have fabrication departments. And then unions, if you have local unions that are in your area, you can go to them for help with that. And then engineering firms, of course, are kind of a given. If you have an engineering firm nearby that specializes in one of the tasks that you need to do, then it doesn't hurt to ask them. One thing that I can tell you is when you're looking for these resources, what's great about having funding available to you where you don't have to ask for money every time you approach someone, it gives you sort of a safer in when you're going to make those community connections. So if you go to somebody like Sanderson Farms and you say, I don't need your money, I need your employees, I need your volunteers, I need your community relations people to work with us to engage the industry with the education. That's a goal that they're already looking at. So that's something that, how could they say no, right? How can you say no if somebody comes up and says, I just want you to help these kids. I'm not asking for your money. And then you ask them for the money next year. So a lot of them have employee dollar matches too, but we'll talk about that another time. Let's go to question 4. Access to adequate woodworking, metalworking, welding, and other facilities are important in the robot fabrication process. Some teams have these capabilities available at school, while others take advantage of tools and machine shops provided by their corporate partners or nearby teams. Describe the design and fabrication facilities that will be available to your team this year, including support, training, CAD, fabric. Okay. I just did a paragraph. I'm sure that having more would be better if you already know some community partners that you're going to hit specifically. Our tools and machine training will be done by our CTE teachers in the local machine shop, and then put the name of the machine shop. We'll sign up for online courses in CAD. We'll connect with our other teams to find out which platforms they use and how best to find the training. Our local makerspace provides classes in fabrication, 3D printing, and CNC. I just made all of that up, but you would want to put that in for whatever your real situation is. If you feel that you don't have any resources, I think that inserting what your plan to figure them out would be the right move. Again, it's making sure that the reviewers understand that you know what you're getting into. Okay, so any questions on that one? 3 more to go, y'all. Okay, question 5. Another critical aspect of the team's success is enthusiastic support of team, whatever that means, administration. Do you have support from your senior level?
If we're a community team, is this asking if you have support from principal, superintendent, 4-H administrator, library? So we just put yes and just leave it?
When it comes to this question for the community teams, I understand it's more of a challenge. I think that if you're something like the YMCA, then you do have people that you could say are in support based on your YMCA structure. But I also think that you need to include the administration of the schools the students are feeding from and the parents of the students, just remembering that the idea is that NASA will know that you have a full understanding of what you're getting into and that you're not just going to try to do this by yourself. You understand that you probably can't do it by yourself and you need help.
I would say it's important to put details in this. Like y'all rattled off the high schools that were going to be involved. Then make sure it's not like I'll work with the principals of their local high schools. It'll be like we intend to work with the principals of this high school, that high school, that high school, and that high school.
So let's move on to 6. Why are you considering entering a team in this upcoming FIRST robotics competition season? What measurable goals does your team have, both for the team and for the participants this season, as well as in the future? Wow. That's a lot of important information, some that you probably know and some that you don't. I wrote my mock-up of this one. Lucian, maybe you can tell me if I was on the right track here. I said that our students have shown an interest in robotics over the last year, and our administration and parents have requested that we find a robotics program that will enrich the students and engage them in STEM. We feel that FIRST not only provides the STEM, but also helps develop the most well-rounded student into the adults needed in any workforce. And then I put the 2024 goals, understanding that there are some technical things that I personally just don't know how to list. I think that there are some things that maybe David or Lucian could put in here that will be skill sets that the kids will walk away with that I just personally don't know because I'm not actually a coach. But I put more of the other side of FIRST in here.
I think the three most important things to highlight here is students, students, and students. And then I think you'll be fine.
Okay.
Figuring out how to be the world-class robotics team that has a bunch of blue banners probably doesn't get you very far in this question.
So you can read my example, providing a safe space where students can learn, fail, and succeed as a team and a family. I know family is really big with most of our successful teams. I haven't really seen any successful high-level teams that don't treat their group like a family. Tracking the progress, I think, is also important because it's part of tracking the student and giving them the experience of opening their eyes to new possibilities. There's been many a story where a team has started and a kid comes in wanting to be the one that drives the robot because that's what they did in their video game. But then when they actually get there, they realize that they're actually amazing at programming, or maybe they're really, really good at the electrical stuff and they're not really great drivers. Who knows? You want your students to be able to touch on each part, each element, and then find out which thing fits them best. And then if the following year they want to switch and try something else, absolutely let them, because that's what this is all about. It's about giving them this well-rounded and world experience and opening their eyes to things that they maybe never would have thought of. The fact that they have to be measurable, sometimes that's hard, right? Go back to that historian and the statistician, getting that stuff from the beginning to the end, recording it, getting it in writing. That is the measurable. Doing the interviews at the beginning and the end, those are the measurables. It's not just about their grade.
And this is a good place to talk about if you have any ambitions of developing the pipeline from elementary all the way through till a student gets a job, then this is a good place to talk about it, that this is a key component of the engineering and robotics development pipeline.
Yeah, and if you already have other programs and FRC is being added, like I know a couple of you do on this call, you've got all the other programs, and this is the final piece to the puzzle. That's important too. You're completing that full portfolio of programs and experience for the students. Last one. Please describe what will set your team apart from other teams competing in this year's FIRST robotics competition. What makes your team unique, such as community outreach events, specific contributions to the robotics community, etc. If there are any considerations that you would like to share with the review panel, you may do so here as well. This is, again, another question that you might think, well, why would I even know that at this point? We're just starting. So I came up with a couple of examples. Example one, as a rookie team in our area, there are no other FIRST robotics competition teams that exist. We will be unique in the fact that there will be a team at all. The focus of the community is mainly around high school football. We hope to create a culture where STEM students are celebrated in the same way. To do this, our team will brainstorm together to come up with ideas for outreach and awareness with meaningful targeted exhibitions and demonstrations in our community and public celebrations of our team's journey through social media and local press. Second example, the only FIRST team close to our area is attached to a school, and only that school students can participate. This team will be a community-based team where all students from any school and homeschool can take part, give access to students who may not otherwise consider each other. And then I put other points to consider: the community workforce pipeline, just like Lucian just said, access to scholarships and opportunities that they would not have otherwise. FIRST still has over $80 million available to students who qualify and participate in FIRST. Giving students confidence after specific hardship. I think this is important, especially right now. You've got students that have gone through some really weird stuff over the last few years. And sometimes having a place and having a constant is the most valuable thing that can happen in their lives. Whether it's a hurricane or it's some other thing that's happening in your specific community, put that down. Any questions on this? And you got any?
My initial reaction is when you don't have a team around, that makes you super unique. You're serving students that aren't being served.
We'd like to thank Lucian Junkin for joining and advising us today, and thank NASA for providing the FRC Rookie Grant opportunity. The 2025 NASA Rookie Grant application is due on September 30th with a strict deadline of 10:59 p.m. Central Time. NASA advises that you leave extra time to complete the upload. For example, if you start your upload at 10:58 and it takes longer than 1 minute, you will not be able to submit. So start early and let us know if you have questions. Good luck, everyone.